Hey guys, MMsportspod here. We are doing our first mailbag. We had questions coming in on Instagram. Our first one is from Davin Sherwood, and he asks, are the Buffalo Bills the real deal?
Absolutely. Josh Allen is currently the odds-on favorite to win MVP. It's kind of a tight race between him and Lamar. And I think a lot of people thought the Bills might take a step back, given that Josh Allen loses his number one wide receiver in Stephon Diggs. And, Josh Allen's always kind of been a roller coaster. We've seen lots of peaks, a few valleys, but at this point, man, Josh Allen's playing at the best level of his career. I think losing his number one receiver kind of made him look elsewhere. So he is dishing it to their first pick in Keon Coleman, their yak guy in Khalil Shakir, their just kind of do it all guys in Mac Hollins and Curtis Samuel. It's just a good team, man. And the Bills are 100% a real deal. You beat Kansas City, who was undefeated at this point, and they kind of, I don't know about run away with it, but they looked like the better team. So, yes, absolutely. Bills are the real deal.
Yeah. And then our next question is coming from Will.Nelson18. He asks, what was the best college football uni of the week? I'm going to go Oregon here, the Uni Kings. Black tops with chrome wings, and then white unis with metallic green lettering, black pants. It was a super clean look. There weren't a lot of great uniforms this week, but I really like those. And then our next one's coming in from Mason G. Lynch. He asks, should the Steelers utilize Justin Fields more, especially in the red zone? I think Justin Fields is kind of like he could be a Taysom Hill guy, not as much tight end, but in terms of just giving you wildcat looks, he could do that for sure. You saw him enter the game against the Ravens when they're trying to run the ball out. So, yeah, sure, but I don't think he's like a permanent red zone quarterback. You're not going to be Russell Wilson. You're going to get us all the way down to the 20, and then once we get there, it's Justin Fields. So, could they utilize him more? Probably in special packages. Are they going to? I don't really think so. Our next question comes in from It's Asian Time, and he asks, who will win the NFC West?
I'm going to stick with my prediction a couple weeks ago, and I'm still going to go with the Rams, mostly just because I think they're kind of a proven commodity with Sean McVay, Matt Stafford, and now they're healthy with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, and the offense is looking a lot better. It's going to be close. I think really you could go with any team in the NFC West, but I lean towards the Rams, especially with how much production they're getting for their first round defensive line picks. So yeah, give me the Rams.
Yeah, I'm going to go chalk here. I think it's the Cardinals. Caveat is if the Seahawks beat them both times that they play, they still have to play twice. If the Cardinals can split those games, I think they've been playing better. And the only reason I say the Seahawks if they beat them twice is because it shows me that they're more in the peak than the valley because they've been pretty volatile in terms of their quality as a team. Our next question comes in from Austin Spangler. He says, pick your playoff bracket for the NFL. So in the NFC, we have in order 1 through 7, Lions, Eagles, Cardinals, Bucks over Atlanta. Watch that. They're going to catch up. Commanders, Packers, and Vikings. And then in the AFC, we have Kansas City, Buffalo, the Ravens, Houston, Pittsburgh, the Chargers, and then the Broncos as the 7 seed. Another question from Austin Spangler. He asks, predict your playoff bracket for the college football playoff. So we deem this to mean what does the bracket look like? Not necessarily who's going to win the bracket, but what is it going to look like at the end of the day? And we have Oregon at 1, Alabama winning the SEC at 2, Miami winning the ACC, getting the 3 seed, and Colorado jumping Boise State with a couple wins to close out here and getting that 4 spot. Then we have Ohio State at 5, a 2-loss Texas team at 6, Penn State 7, Notre Dame 8, Ole Miss at 9, followed by Georgia at 10, 1-loss Indiana with their loss being to Ohio State at 11, and then Boise State getting that 12 spot. Next question we got is, are the Chargers overrated? This is from Connor Simmons 97.
No, the Chargers aren't overrated. I'd say they're pretty properly rated as one of the top 5 teams in the AFC right now. You just have, it's the Jim Harbaugh effect, man. He's a fantastic coach. This is pretty much the exact same roster as last season when Brandon Staley was the head coach, plus a couple, really good draft picks in Joe Alt at left tackle, Lad McConkey at wide receiver. A little bit more talent, but I mean, it's pretty much the same roster. And just look at what Jim Harbaugh's done, man. The defense is playing lights out football. And Justin Herbert is playing the best football of his career, man. It's been impressive to watch. So, no, the Steelers are not overrated. The Chargers are not overrated by any means. They're a damn good football team.
Yeah. Next question, also from Connor. He asks, "Are the Seahawks good or bad?" Both and neither at the same time. They can be really good. They blew out the Falcons. They can be really bad, and not even getting blown out by the Bills, but losing to the Giants bad. I mean, they can be way up here. They can be way down here, man. It really depends on the week. And at the end of the day, you're looking at a team that's probably going to go 9-8, maybe ceiling's probably 10-7 at this point, and maybe they can eke out a spot in the playoffs. If they get to host a home game, then it's interesting. Seattle, tends to perform well at home in the playoffs, but right now their a ceiling is really a first round exit, in my opinion. So middle of the road team, maybe like 14ish, like that. They're just nothing special. And then he also asked, can the Texans make a run?
I think I'm going to have to go with no here, man. And I think honestly, it's because I think CJ Stroud might be having a little bit of a sophomore slump. It's not that he's playing, just bad football, but it hasn't been like what we saw last season, where it's like, oh wow, this guy's playing easily top 10 quarterback in the league type of football, maybe even top, 5, something like that. We just haven't seen that this year. And Nico Collins going out for a while definitely hindered that, him being back. They should be better. But you're just not seeing the high end that we were hoping for at the beginning of the season. So when you compare him to the top of the AFC with the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Bills, even the Steelers, I just don't see him getting a win over those teams come playoff time. So good season. You're probably gonna win the division, but just probably not gonna make a run.
Yeah, so that's going to do it for our mailbag. Appreciate you guys sending those questions. For our mailbag, you guys are more than welcome to DM me at McKay_03_ or go ahead and email us at MMsportspod@gmail.com. You're also more than welcome to leave YouTube comments and comments on our Instagram or on Spotify. We'd be happy to answer those questions. We hope to start putting these out a little bit more, get a little bit more interaction with you guys. We want to tell you guys what you want to hear, and appreciate you guys listening and, sending us some feedback. Additionally, we need to break down what the College Football Playoff Committee just put out, because that was atrocious. I mean, the most offensive thing to me is BYU is right behind SMU. It doesn't make any sense. You're going to honor the head-to-head. Ole Miss is at 9, Georgia at 10. And then you put BYU at 14 when they beat SMU 18-15. That's SMU's only loss. Just flip them. That's all you have to do. I mean, I don't understand. I don't understand that one. What else are you seeing from these rankings, Max?
It's just, I mean, it's the same old story, man, every year. I think all we want from the committee is one, transparency. How are you ranking these teams? Because the logic, it never makes sense. So that's the second reason. The consistency in how they rank these teams, there's none of it. Notre Dame, for example, one loss team, probably the worst loss of any of the teams ranked in the top 12, losing to NIU at home, right?
Yep.
That's the worst loss, right? Which, okay, they're still a one loss team, but they have Miami, a one loss team, behind. So it goes Notre Dame at 6, Alabama at 7, Miami at 8. That's one loss Notre Dame, two loss Bama, one loss Miami. And they go, Alabama is a two-loss team, but we like their wins more than Miami, so we're going to rank them ahead of Miami. But we don't like them more than Notre Dame, even though Notre Dame best win right now is Texas A&M first week of the season, and they have the worst loss in the country. It just doesn't make any sense. I think all we want is consistency and transparency from the committee, and we just once again don't get it.
Yeah, other things that kind of red alert here. Boise State is now technically the 4 seed if we were to start tomorrow. BYU, Colorado, and ASU and Iowa State, the 4 teams that have a chance to win the Big 12, Their BYU is 14, Colorado 16, Arizona State 21, and Iowa State 22, and Boise State's up there at 12. So you got to wonder, especially if Arizona State beats BYU and you get a 2-loss Big 12 champ, do they get the 5 seed? And also, if Army wins out, that means they beat Notre Dame, they beat a ranked Tulane team, and they beat a Navy team who is a quality team. They'd close out with 3 really, really strong wins. And that would put them at 12-0 or 13-0 because they have one more game. So they'd be 13-0 and they'd have 2 ranked wins against Notre Dame, Tulane. Well, do they jump that Big 12 team? Because that's a better resume than any team that the Big 12 is going to be able to put out is going to have, unless BYU runs the table. And then you're looking at like, well, if they don't put them over Boise State and they don't put them over Army, well, then the Big 12 champ could be left out. I was reading the rules because I was confused. Like, does the Big 12 get automatic bid? No, it's just the top 5 conference champions. So there's, slim to none chance, but keep your eye out. The Big 12 champion might not make the playoff at all. That's what I got from these rankings, because having Tennessee, SMU, Boise State all ranked ahead of BYU shows that the committee has absolutely zero respect for the Big 12.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% there. I I just want to know, like, how do you rank teams? They honor head to head for some matchups, like, oh, Ole Miss is ahead of Georgia. They have the same record, but Ole Miss beat Georgia, so we're going to rank them ahead of Georgia. SMU, BYU, they have the same record. SMU lost to BYU, but is ranked ahead of them. It just doesn't make any sense. So it doesn't necessarily matter, given that, it really just comes down to the very last ranking. But in some ways it does, man. Like, this is what you're saying, if the college football playoffs started tomorrow, this is what the teams would be. And I see a lot of errors in it. So overall, I think disappointing to see from the committee. And it's just the same old story every single year.
Yeah, Tennessee, they're going to need one upset to get in. They're at the 11 spot, which would put them out. They'd be at 13 if the playoffs did start that way. They're going to have some chances there. You got to wonder, they already have Indiana at number 5. They're behind 1-loss Penn State, behind 1-loss Texas, behind 1-loss Ohio State. Now, the Ohio State will work itself out, right? Indiana still got to play Ohio State. But if they lose that game, and particularly if they lose that game badly, they just took undefeated BYU and dropped them all the way to 14. So do they put them behind a 2-loss Tennessee team who would have a better resume? I don't think Indiana they don't have any ranked wins. Do you have that strength of schedule number on you?
So of the top 15 teams in the CFP right now, Indiana strength of schedule wise would have the worst at 106. That's across all college football teams. So they're pretty far down there as far as strength of schedule goes. That'll go up as soon as they play Ohio State. But currently their best win is probably against Michigan at home, 20-15. So we're really not talking about a team that has that great of a resume. They've just handled every single team, every single kind of middle of the pack to lower end Big Ten team that they've played.
Yeah, and like you said, that Michigan game was close, really close, and they looked abysmal in that second half. So, some of these things I don't actually have a problem with. I think Tennessee's a better team than BYU. I'm fine with them being ahead of BYU. It's the lack of consistency that I see throughout the rankings. Like, what are you looking at? And I feel like they don't explain themselves maybe as well as they should. I think they try and keep it behind closed doors. And at the end of the day, a lot of these things will sort themselves out. If Notre Dame loses, they're out. If they win, they're in. But seeding is really important this year. It's not, you play whoever you play in a neutral site game. The difference between the 8 and the 9 seed is who's going to play at whose house. Is Ole Miss going to Penn State, or is Penn State going to Ole Miss? That's a massive, massive difference. So seeding, much more important than it was previously, particularly because, when you start debating who's 11 and who's 13, that those can be really, really close. It can be a couple of 2-loss teams who have not played each other or even have any common opponents. And, this does not make me trust the committee anymore.
No. And unfortunately, they have the power to do so, right? It's really never been who is necessarily the most deserving. It's always been who the committee views as the best teams. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for the best possible matchups to bring in the most possible views and the most revenue for the NCAA. So unfortunately, that's how it's structured. The committee gets to decide exactly how this goes, and they don't have to be transparent. They can. We saw it last year with FSU being an undefeated Power Five conference championship and being left out because the committee said, eye test, Bama's a lot better. I think we all agree that Bama was better, but still, you're basically saying that it doesn't matter what you do. It matters how we view you, essentially. So it's just the state of college football. I'm not a huge fan of it, how they have the committee set up. Hopefully we see a change sometime, but I don't think we will anytime soon.
Yeah, I got one more note here. South Carolina's creeping up. They're at 18. Now, you might say
Come
three-loss
on,
team.
South
You
Carolina.
don't need to watch them. There is a world where Texas A&M beats Texas and wins the SEC title game, and Clemson makes the ACC title game and then loses to South Carolina, which wouldn't knock them out because that's not a conference game. So Clemson makes the ACC title game. Both of those teams win. South Carolina would be sitting at 9-3 with victories over the SEC champion and the ACC champion in Texas A&M and Clemson. Their losses would be 2 points to Bama, 3 points to LSU, and I mean they kind of got smoked by Ole Miss. But once again, slim to none. But if you're a Gamecocks fan, not all hope is lost. So that was kind of my last thing, little sleeper team there at the end. You got anything else on these rankings, man?
No.
All right, cool. Well, anger index off the chart. This is terrible. But I'm sure we'll just get angry every week until we see the final rankings, and hopefully they're not too
this is
bad.
the first, I think, have we had two, this is our third week of rankings now from the CFP. And
Yep.
for the first 2 weeks, we really didn't have any issues with it because it was pretty clear who were the top 12 teams. But quite a bit of shaking up happened this past week, and the committee finally had some tough decisions, and we definitely do not agree with these decisions.
No, we definitely do not. But that's going to wrap it up for us. Appreciate you guys listening. Appreciate the mailbag questions. Once again, you can email us at mmsportspod@gmail.com. You can DM us on Instagram or comment on any of the posts, or you can go ahead and comment on YouTube or Spotify. We will be dropping an NFL podcast here in a little bit. So you guys have a great day and go make some money this weekend.